If you ever feel lonely, you're actually not alone in that feeling. In fact, a Cigna Health study showed that 50% of us feel isolated, lack of companionship, and like people don't know us well. My guest today is Fathelbab, who wrote The Friendship Advantage, and he's going to share with us 7 keys for building relationships that bring us true connection and joy. Welcome to Happiness Adventure. I'm Lisa, and together we'll explore ways to cultivate real joy in our lives. I read in your book that you weren't always feeling like you were good at connecting with people and connecting people.
Yeah.
So you share a little bit about your kind of origin story and how you went from where you were as a teen to where you are today?
You know, as a teen, I definitely had a couple of nights I went to bed crying because I just was not happy. You know, I didn't feel like I was fitting in. I didn't feel like I was with the group of friends I wanted to be with. It just wasn't a happy time for me. And so I made it my mission. I'm like, I don't like this and I'm going to change it. So I went through a series of things and it took years, right? I mean, I certainly can tell you that I saw benefits and increments of improvement along the way, but it took years. And so, you know, one of the first things I did, and I'll never forget this, I got a distributorship selling Shackley. So here I am, I'm like 13, 14, and it's one of my first, jobs as a way to make money. And I remember meeting our tennis pro, like this is like, the high school kid who was our top tennis champ. You know, I knew of him, he knew of me, but we never talked. And when I started talking to him to get him to be one of my distributors, he said, "My God, you're so nice. I always thought like I was afraid of you. Like you came across as like arrogant."
Wow.
And
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And so for me, that was eye-opening. Like what a gift for him to tell me that truth for him, because maybe being uncomfortable in my own skin, I put on this front,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't who I was at all. And so now I'm just really conscious of, you know what, it's my job to say hello. It's my job to smile because I know other people on the other side are feeling exactly the way that I felt at that time.
You know, I am so surprised to hear you say that someone perceived you ever in your life as not friendly because you just exude warmth. But I had a similar thing where I thought that I was being really friendly and I was just extremely shy. And I started getting feedback from people that, gosh, you're really standoffish or you come across as snobby. And I guess it is really a gift to get that feedback. But it's so shocking to sometimes to hear the perception versus what's going on inside, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so that's a good segue maybe to one of the chapters in the book, The Friendship Advantage. And that chapter is called Kind Truth. And, I define kind truth as the ability to say what needs to be said kindly, right? So some people won't say it if it seems uncomfortable or if it smells like conflict or if they think they're going to hurt someone's feelings. And some people will say it irrespective of how it lands on the other person. But kind truth is the awareness of, you know what, I'm going to say it, but I'm going to say it kindly because my intention is not to hurt you and I want you to receive it. And so for me, that word, the gift, was really powerful because as a conflict avoider by nature, I've come a long way. Not that I love it,
Yeah.
but as a conflict avoider by nature, part of it is not wanting to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now when somebody says, "Hey, Mo, I have some feedback," or "I'm not clean with you," which is the vernacular we use if I have an issue with you.
Yeah.
My ears are really like tuned in to, okay, I'm looking for a gift. There's an opportunity here. And at minimum, that gift could be that you aren't holding any more resentment towards me because you've gotten it off your chest and you've told me.
Well, I do want to dive into your book, and I want to say that to hear that we can learn how to make friends at any age, I think is very encouraging, and that there's a formula or principles that we can follow. And I know sometimes I really feel the pangs of loneliness. Social media, we always hear how bad it is, but sometimes I'm looking and I see everyone went to a party I didn't get invited to or something, and I feel those pangs of loneliness. And At those times, I do feel, okay, well, let me be more intentional about building meaningful connections. And so let's talk about some of these keys or principles that you lay
Yeah.
out in addition to speaking kind truth that can help us build really meaningful, real friendships.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start with, mischievous fun, because I think that's the one thing that you will hear nowhere else but right here.
That is my favorite one.
Is it beautiful? And so here's the thing, right? I've come to realize that everybody, and it's a generalization, I got it, but everybody with their real friends, with their closest friends, is comfortable being a little mischievous, whatever that means to you, right? But when you're not with your closest friends, then again, we're pretending we have this persona, we have this professional image, whatever it might be. And as a consequence, we're not really being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of the ways, it's actually an act of vulnerability to show you my mischievous side,
Yeah.
because it's something that we guard, just like we do the deeper, darker, vulnerable things, like me crying to bed as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of my favorite stories about this mischievous fun, and I've had lots of it, but one of my favorite recent ones, I was on a train and I sit next to this lady, and it was end of the day. I'm kind of tired. I've got my headphones in and I'm just in my own world, but she starts to peel this orange and it smelled so good. I hadn't peeled an orange in months, apparently. I just couldn't help myself. And I blurted out, "Oh my God, that smells amazing." And so she says, "Would you like some?" And I go, "No, thank you. I just, it just caught me by surprise." And so we're talking, and a few more minutes in, she goes, "So where are you from?" I go, "I'm from Egypt." And she goes, "Well, do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And I look at her dead serious and I go, "I am Jesus Christ." so, so she looked at me and then she started laughing. But an hour and a half later, she says, "You made my day." But
Wow.
here's the thing, right? That little mischievous, fun connection just broke open the door. It made me human. It made me real, right?
And she was getting really deep fast, and you also lightened up the mood with that.
Yeah. And so, it's interesting because that's a very good observation. And one of the reasons I don't like to talk to people on planes or trains, strangers, is, here's how I think of it. Is it just small talk? And how much small talk am I going to have over the course of the next 4 hours? That's
Yeah.
or am I really having fun? And, maybe, right? Or am I going to be real? And if I'm going to be real, and this is my concern, what strangers are lurking around? Because if you read, another chapter in the book, there's this thing called reliability. And so part of reliability is, can I rely on you not to judge me? Can I rely on you not to violate my confidentiality?
Mm-hmm.
Can I rely on you to know you're going to be there? So in this public setting, not knowing who's around, it's not very safe, right? And without the safety, where do you go? And so, yeah, I intentionally lighten it up because I don't have the safety. And everybody agrees to that stuff. And we're very clear. And in this another chapter, the non-judgment, about we're not going to judge you because you know what? It's not good.
Yeah.
And so once we've set up all the safety parameters, now there's room to be vulnerable.
What is the next one?
So the thing that I just would say for everybody out there is this, and this is according to David Bradford, professor at Stanford. He teaches a course known as Touchy-Feely. That's not the name of the course, but it's a graduate school course at the Graduate School of Business. So David Bradford says, vulnerability is the currency of relationships. Without vulnerability, relationships remain superficial.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty profound. Like if you think about any relationship in your life where you don't feel as connected as you would like, then one or both parties are not being vulnerable. But here's the thing. It's like the chicken and the egg. Who goes first? Me or you, right? And so you know what I'm going to say about that, right?
Go first.
Go first, because I can't count another person to go first. And they may never go. Yeah.
for a newbie who doesn't really know what that means to go first, being vulnerable, can you give us an example?
Yeah. So one of the things today that's a big stigma that people don't talk about, some do, is depression. And so if I'm depressed and I don't tell you, and you're my friend, then am I being real with you? Am I being vulnerable? Am I taking a risk and sharing something that I'm not comfortable sharing? Which is really the definition here. So if I'm comfortable sharing it already, I'm not being vulnerable. And so the vulnerable act is I'm stepping out of my comfort zone just a little bit. I don't have to go in the deep end right away, just a little bit. And that is the definition of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Have I stepped out of my comfort zone? Have I taken a risk? And a risk I would define as it exposes me.
Mm-hmm.
It exposes me to possible danger. It exposes me to possible judgment, which can be dangerous. It exposes me to confidentiality. Maybe it goes to the wrong person and it gets me in trouble. Am I taking a risk?
Yeah.
Am I taking a risk? But the thing about, back to your question, some people certainly are more comfortable than others in taking that risk, even though it is a risk. And I would simply say, start small. Start with somebody that matters, that you want to get closer to. And yes, it's a protection mechanism as human beings to not share the wrong thing with the wrong person. Just like it is a protection mechanism for us as human beings to not, go in the jungle without a weapon or, walk in the street with our money hanging out of our pocket. So yeah, you have to guard yourself. Don't do it with abandon, but start small. Who can you start with?
Well, what I've experienced is that things that feel like they are so unique to me, once I share them, sometimes in a small group, let's say, I'm shocked at how many other people have had the same experience or something very similar. And if not, they've had the same emotion and the same feeling. And it's such a kind of like an unburdening feeling to, number one, share it, and then number two, have other people be able to relate.
Yes, what a relief it is, right?
Yes. I also have had experiences where I share a feeling that's sensitive and I get a response like, well, don't feel that way. And
Yeah.
it's very unrewarding. I don't even know how to say it, but it's almost off-putting. And I feel like, well, I regret sharing that with you. And it's a tiny little insult to my heart, if you will. But I'm just wondering if there's any guidance you can give on our mindset when we try to be vulnerable and it doesn't go quite as we'd like.
Yeah. So one of the rules of life that I've learned in the last few years is people are entitled to their emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And when you say, I feel sad about this, and I say anything that says you shouldn't feel that way, I'm devaluing your emotions. I'm telling you your emotions are not right. And that's not safe. It's a judgment. And then it's tougher for you to feel safe in sharing more with me. And so off the bat, just realize what somebody's emotions are. Like, that's their truth. It is how they feel. And we have to honor that.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't go well, ask yourself why. So sometimes the person on the other side is trying to rescue you.
Mm-hmm.
And by saying whatever they say, maybe they think they're helping you to feel better. It doesn't necessarily go well. It might devalue how you feel, and it might show that they didn't actually hear you. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things you could say to this person is, I'm not sure you've heard me. Or when you do that, if this is an ongoing pattern with this person, I feel unheard. Or when you do that, I feel judged. And then see how that goes. Because maybe it's not intentional at all. Maybe it's just their programming and what they've done all along until you give them the gift of your feedback.
Absolutely. And I think that is something that I know for years and years, that was my reaction when someone would tell me that they were upset in any negative emotion was, okay, well, how can we stop that right now?
Yeah.
Was counterproductive, but I thought I was helping at the time.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that could be happening is they could be uncomfortable in their own skin with the subject matter.
Yes.
They don't know how to receive it. And again, that's their knee-jerk reaction. And so we don't know until we check it out. We don't know until we give them a chance to say, hey, that wasn't helpful.
Yeah. It does seem like trying again and explaining what we need is a great next step.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about reliability as one of the characteristics of a good friendship.
Yeah. So I don't know. You've had friends that don't show up when they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have. I don't know about you. I have.
Yes.
You've had friends, by contrast, who are there for you when they know something is not good in your life, and they just show up.
Yeah.
They just show up. They're just there. What can I do? Or I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to sit with you. And then you've had friends who just kind of don't even respond.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You call, you leave a voicemail, they don't respond.
Yeah.
And that feels pretty bad, right?
It's terrible and perplexing.
And perplexing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that one facet of reliability is just, are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do you show up? Do you do what you say you're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Real basic. Another facet is, are you on time? So I was just talking to somebody, and it's actually one of my yoga instructors, and he was like a little bit down, and I go, what happened? He goes, well, my this guy I've been seeing, he didn't like, he would leave me sitting at the restaurant table for a half hour.
Oh.
How horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one facet of reliability.
Mm-hmm.
Another is confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I've heard, which just troubles me, because I hope it doesn't happen with your friends, and I certainly hope it doesn't happen with my friends, is I tell you a secret, and you go tell Joanna, and you tell her, ooh, listen to what Mo told me, but keep it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And then she tells somebody, and guess what? It's not a secret anymore.
Right.
And so we only learn the hard way over the course of time, whether I can rely upon you to keep my secrets or not.
Yep. It's such a good point. And I think that sometimes people think that, okay, but my spouse doesn't count or my partner doesn't count.
Yeah.
And I've been able to watch my dad, actually, he's in a forum group, a business group that's highly confidential that we've both been involved with, those type of groups. And I've watched how careful he is to guard even talking about a subject matter that might have come up at a meeting, because it might imply that someone in the group is dealing with that particular issue. And so I've realized there are a lot of ways to breach confidentiality beyond specifically saying, hey, so-and-so told me this. So I think I need to be vigilant about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could ask me, hey, how's your friend Joe? And I can't tell you, it's all confidential. And then a few minutes later, so have you ever had a good friend deal with depression?
Right. Yeah. Connecting the dots. It's
connecting the dots. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think that's one of the main ones. And, the foundation for a lot of my work is those forum groups. And confidentiality is one of the pillars, flat out, one of the pillars. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And no, you can't go tell your spouse. I don't care that you have no secrets from your spouse. Do you feel the need to tell your spouse my secrets?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I've become really attuned to gossip, and kind of here's how it goes. So if you and I go and have a drink, if you're talking about somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
my question in the back of my mind is, okay, why aren't we talking about you and me?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it you're talking about this third person?
Yeah.
And does that tell me something about whether that may be happening about me when it's not me in this seat across from you?
Right. Absolutely. If I'm willing to gossip about someone else, why would I not be willing to do it with you, about you? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, you say also that generosity is one of the keys to building friendships. What do you mean by generous? Is that a monetary thing?
Not necessarily, but I want to quote my friend Maria Sipka from San Francisco now, but she's originally from Sydney. And she says people either come from Givington or Takington, right?
Uh-huh.
And so when I first heard that 20 years ago, it just stuck with me and it never went away. I'm like, that is so brilliant. And so I know it's not always about money at all, but some people never have you at their house, but you've had them over 20 times, right?
Yeah.
Or, your friend at the office is struggling to get something done and you're going to get lunch. Hey, can I bring you a sandwich? Can I bring you a salad? I mean, it's a little gesture. You don't have to buy. Maybe you do, but it's an act of giving.
Yeah. The next one is judgment free. And how do we create a judgment free relationship with others?
Yeah. Well, so I start with awareness and just saying, do I feel judged in this person's presence? Do I feel judged in my relationship with this person? I think it's harder to recognize if I'm judging you than it is for me to recognize if I feel judged by you.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And so we have to talk about that with one another.
Mm-hmm.
In what ways do you feel judged by me? In what ways do I feel judged by you? So we could have a common understanding of whether we're doing it or whether we're not, and what the impact is. And so I think it shows up in a lot of different ways. So one way is just you tell me a story and I roll my eyes or I sigh. Now, maybe my eye roll is not directed at you. It may be directed at the person that wronged you as it relates to the story you're telling me.
Yeah.
Maybe it is directed at you. But guess what? If you think it's directed at you and you don't ask me and you feel judged by me, the damage is done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit of a chink in the armor, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But if you ask me and I say, oh my God, Lisa, that wasn't for you. I just can't believe that person did that to you.
Yeah.
And it's all good. So that's one way it shows up. Another way it shows up is through advice. And so in the peer group work that I've done for nearly 3 decades, there's this compulsion to want to fix people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
And when I tell you, here's what you need to do to solve your problem, for me, I might feel good. I might feel smart. I might feel brilliant. I might even feel helpful. And I might be coming from a good place in that, I'm helping Lisa, right?
Yeah.
But what are the chances that's how it lands on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, what you may be hearing is, oh, he thinks he knows what's better for me.
Mm-hmm.
Or he's assuming I didn't try that already.
Yeah.
Or he didn't even hear me out.
Yeah.
And here he is with his advice again. Like his life is perfect and he has all the answers.
Oh my gosh, it's so frustrating when I try to tell someone something and then I first have to get past all the questions of, well, did you do this? Yeah, I did that, but it's really bothering me. But did you do this? And then I feel like, okay, let's move past all the suggestions so I can just tell you how I'm feeling. And I know I do it to other people all the time too.
Well, and so it's a slippery slope because there are people out there that will even ask, I want your advice.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So here's how I interpret that question. They need my help, or they want an ear, they just want me to listen, or they want to feel heard and understood, or maybe they want coaching to find their own answer.
Yeah.
Or they just are being vulnerable to connect with me. And so, one of the questions I ask is, thank you for sharing, tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Another question I ask is, what would you like from me? And even if they say I want advice, the first automatic reaction I now have is, do I have a story of my own to tell
Yeah.
about how I dealt with something similar? Because in doing so, I'm not judging you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm also sharing my vulnerability with you, which creates that connection. So one of the things that I've noticed is some people, I'm not going to say everybody, will give advice as a way of not personally sharing their story.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're not willing to be vulnerable, then the advice is, well, here's your answer, leave me alone.
Yeah. I know that you're never selfish when you share stories, but how do we make sure that we are not just turning it around to talk about ourselves and our thing?
It's a great question. So one of the things that I'm conscious of in that regard is the clock. And I don't actually time myself. But if you tell me in 30 seconds what your situation is, and I ramble for a half hour, not good.
It's a good tip
Not
off.
good. Right. And so again, I start with tell me more. And, what part of that bothers you? What emotions are you feeling? How did it make you feel?
Yeah.
What are you feeling now? What have you tried? How can I be helpful? And so then when you're ready to hear, whether it's my experience or whether it's my questions, when you're ready for them, now I've gotten, first of all, everything off of your chest. And now you're more willing and ready and open to hear what I have to say, particularly if you've asked me for it.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of sharing your stories about something that happened to you that relates, because I think some of the things I remember most are a story someone told me about what they did. Yeah. And it wasn't, oh, you should do this, but it was memorable. And I remembered it when I was in a similar situation and could kind of draw upon that and learn something from it.
Yes. So this is very personal for me, as all this stuff is in some way, shape, or form. So my parents were divorced when I was 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really know my father growing up as a consequence. And then when I started to get to know him, I was, probably a freshman, sophomore in college, and we started to clash. And for 10 years, we didn't talk, literally. Wow. And during those 10 years, I got plenty of advice. You got to call your dad. Why haven't you called your dad? What an opportunity to call your dad, right? And I just ignored it because it was here. Mm-hmm. And here, I was sure I knew the answer. But then one of my forum mates lost his father. And when that happened, and I saw the tears in the room, and I heard the stories, and I heard the regret, it hit me here in the heart. Mm-hmm. And then here. And then I picked up the phone and I called my dad. Yeah. But it wasn't somebody giving me the advice. Mm-hmm. That just went in one ear, out the other.
Well, when we talk about judgment, sometimes I am really judgmental and I don't want to be. So we're trying to not have miscommunications where you feel judged when I don't have a judgment toward you. But what do we do when we do feel judgment and someone shares with us? What do we do in real time?
Real time. So one of the things that I've realized is my judgment is not a fact. Mm-hmm. And so when I feel a judgment towards you or towards something that you've done, let's just say that you're late last 2 times that you and I are supposed to meet. Mm-hmm. And I didn't say anything because I went back to my non-conflict self, normal self. Yeah. I start to build a story that you're late because you don't care about me. Mm-hmm. Or you're late because you are disorganized. Or you're late because you're overwhelmed and you can't keep up with this stuff and maybe you don't have time for us. Mm-hmm. But those are just stories that I make up about you. So when I ask myself, is that a fact or is that a judgment? And I recognize it as a judgment. First of all, it cools me down a bit. Mm-hmm. It cools my emotions down a bit. Second of all, it causes me to ask a question,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's to me or to you, but the question is it a fact
Yeah.
that she doesn't care, or that I'm not important, or that she's disorganized? Is that a fact? Well, if it's not a fact, then I could ask, hey, can you tell me what's going on?
Yeah.
Or I could say, listen, I know this is a judgment, and I'm owning it as a judgment,
Uh-huh.
which is really, listen, better to try to suspend judgment. Yet, by owning as a judgment, it softens it.
Mm-hmm.
And it tells you that I own it as a judgment. And it tells you that I'm not sure if it's in fact the reality of the situation. So that softens it a bit.
You brought up a perfect example for a question I've been grappling with a little bit, which is when to let things go and when to address them. So if someone's late, not the biggest deal in the world, perhaps, and yet I can get myself worked up over those kind of things. And then I see some people who very artfully say, it's life is too short to get upset about those kind of things. And then I also see the benefit in being kind of emotionally clean or clear with somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, as someone really skilled in this, how do you decide which situation is which?
Yeah. Well, one easy answer is this an ongoing situation?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, did this just happen once? In which case, benefit of the doubt?
Yep.
Right? Or has this happened a couple of times, or does it happen every single time?
Yeah.
That's one easy way that I deal with that. The other is it a good time for this conversation?
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm pretty clear that, I got to have this conversation with Lisa, but I could see it's not a good time. I could just see the stress on her face today. She just told me this and this and this and this is happening. And I don't want to throw more stuff on her plate, because these conversations, again, they're about building our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm caring about building my relationship with you, then I'm not going to want to throw more onto you at a time when you're stressed, or if you're just about to walk out the door to go pick up your kid or something.
Yeah. Late at night when everyone's tired. We were talking recently about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of all that is knowing when to say, hey, Mo, this is an important conversation. I'm not in a good place to have it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to say, can we do it again another time?
Yeah. Just kind of put a stake in the ground and return to it.
Yeah.
The last of the 7 keys we haven't talked about yet is shared purpose. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So it could mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, but do we have a shared purpose in some way? So in doing this webinar, we have a shared purpose, right? The happiness adventure, helping people create connection, helping people create friendship, because we know it'll make for them having better lives. So you and I have a shared purpose in this little snippet right now, right? Another example, I did an Ironman years ago with a bunch of my friends. We had a shared purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It took us 8 months to get to that shared purpose of training, but we had a shared purpose. We are on the same path. So in your company, there's a shared purpose. It's called a mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
And so does everybody in the company share that mission? Hopefully they do.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're hiring people who do. And if not, hopefully you're having a conversation to ask, is this mission right?
Yeah.
Are we actually going in the right direction vis-a-vis what we believe in, what we believe we are here to do in this world? And if we have everybody aligned, then everything just flows. But if we have different missions, then out of the gate, we may not be suitable to work together or to be friends. So if your mission is to raise a baby who is 6 months old, and my mission is, let's just say I'm single, I'm not, and my mission is to go meet new people, we're not necessarily aligned. We're not going to be hanging out every day, day in, day out on the same path.
Right. Mo, tell us about the tool that you've developed that helps us evaluate our friendships.
It's called justjoinclick.com. Justjoinclick.com. Our
Okay,
tagline is, are you clicking with your friends?
cute.
And so, yeah. And so, based on the 7 principles in the book, there's a question about each parameter with each of your friends. And so, you're going to evaluate your friend on generosity, on non-judgment, on vulnerability, on mischievous fun, and everything we've talked about. And then they're going to evaluate you. And then you're going to have a report, which is going to give you an opportunity for a conversation that you've probably never had. And that conversation is going to help you talk about what you can do to improve those relationships. But here's what's really cool. It may be that Mo thinks Lisa's generous and Lisa thinks Mo is generous. But maybe by the time you do this with 10 of your friends, you find out that the average generosity score you've gotten from all 10 of them is a 5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the one-on-one portion, it's really all about what you think and about what I think. But when you get feedback from a group of your 10 closest friends, and it points to one thing, if they all tell you you're not being vulnerable, if they all tell you you're not mischievously fun enough, if they all tell you you're not generous enough, whatever it is they're telling you, now becomes really closer to the truth about you, because it's a 360-degree view from the 10 people that you decided to have participate in this test, who ostensibly are your 10 closest friends.
That's so helpful to have that feedback.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything out there that does it. So I'm hoping this really will help people to just have much better relationships and friendships.
Who is this tool meant for? Is it for people who are already really close? Is it intended for people who are kind of are getting to know each other? What's your ideal candidate for this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll be honest and tell you, I hadn't really thought through that angle of your question, because to me, it's intended this way. If there's a relationship that you care about, that you want to foster, then that is who it's intended for.
Right.
If that's a new relationship and you want to foster it, great. If that's a relationship that you've had for 10 years and you need to do some work, great. And by the way, with my best friends that I've done it with whom I've done it, it's also just a lovely pat on the back to know that they know and you know that you are as solid with each other as you thought in your own head.
Yeah. Have you had any problem with people not being 100% honest or finding it difficult to give negative feedback, if I can use that word, on how they perceive one another?
I think that's a reality of the human condition. And I think it's a very, very, very normal thing that people are just not always comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I will tell you. If you do this test, you're doing it either because you chose to do it and you've invited your friends to participate.
Yes.
And they basically have to participate in one way, shape, or form, and hopefully they'll be honest. Or you're doing it because your friends have invited you to do it.
Uh-huh.
And either way, if you look at it as an opportunity, if you look at it as a gift, I think that's the important part here.
Yeah.
Because really what we're trying to do is just make better relationships. By no means is this intended to say, I hate you, I've got a problem with you. It's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's just about creating awareness for where the pitfalls might be that we may be letting each other down.
What a tremendous tool to be able to have a roadmap for how to deepen a specific relationship while getting feedback from a group to kind of see the patterns in our lives.
Yeah, thank you.
This is a question that we're asking all of our guests, and it's, what are you doing right now to cultivate joy in your life?
So right now, to cultivate joy in my life in this wonderful 100-degree weather in Washington, D.C., is I'm embracing the weather. I'm enjoying the heat and the humidity. I'm going for a walk, even if it means I'm going to come home drenched. Because you know what? My motto in life is there is no bad weather. You either embrace it and enjoy yourself, or you're being victimized by the weather and perhaps other things.
Well, Mo, thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you so much.
We just heard from Mo Fathelbab that there's hope for us when we're feeling lonely because there are 7 keys that we can employ to strengthen our relationships and our connections with others. In the comment section, let me know what of those 7 keys was most surprising to you. The links to Mo's book, as well as to the app that he mentioned, are in the description box right below this video. Before you go, subscribe for a new video each week, and I look forward to seeing you soon for our next happiness adventure.